typing away and turn that microphone sign from white to red, and then that will mute your microphone. So can we all please make sure that is done, and then we'll get going. So yes, for those of you who have just joined, today's session is all about Google Docs. It's a bit more into the nitty-gritty of Google Docs than we had yesterday. Yesterday was very much about the collaborative element of how we can collaborate on Google Docs from Classroom and with many others. Today, we are going to be focusing on just creating things in Google Docs. Just a reminder to all of you to make sure you've muted your microphones as we begin. So what I have done in the Google Classroom, and I'm just going to get my screen set up. If you haven't joined the Google Classroom, I think most people have. We've got about 260 people in the classrooms altogether now. Oh, great to see that some people have tried Jamboard. I had quite a few comments of folks saying they were using Jamboard yesterday. I'm just going to get my screen presented now, just so you can see everything. I've got quite a lot of people still joining. So yeah, this session is very much focused on Google Docs and how to create pieces of work in Google Docs for your classes. And it will also be some of the accessibility features that are built in. And I love all the accessibility features that we get within G Suite. And I'm going to try demoing voice typing through Google Meet today. So we'll see how that goes. Wish me luck with that one later. You don't have to try that during the session. You may want to give it a go, but it's probably something to play about with later on. And we've got a fantastic number again. Honestly, you guys are so good. Amazing. Love it. So if you haven't joined the classrooms, you will be able to see the codes on my screen. Take a quick scribbled note of those. If your screen's gone a bit funny, maybe just refresh the screen and join the meeting again, and then hopefully that will work, or it might just be a little lag in my presentation going to you. So in the Google Classroom today, I'll show the Slovian one. The Midlothian one looks the exact same. Let's just make sure we've got everything, and I'll make sure I've got the chat open. So we've got the sharing docs task for today. And in this, we have got, let me just view the assignment. We've got an example of what a doc can do for a piece of work. So let me just zoom in because I'm aware this is quite zoomed out for you all. So I have got this help this cat document. So if I open this up, you only have view access because this is an example for you. I can edit this because I own the document, but for you, you'll only have view access of it. So what you'll see here is this is basically, you know, we're familiar with using Word, we're familiar with the tools, you know, probably this is a bit more familiar to us than other things we've used this week. But in this session, what we're going to do is we're going to look at creating a document, can look at some of the more clever features within Google Docs, and then we'll just get going and you can create a piece of work or just try it out before sharing with your Google Classroom. So in order to create a new doc, we learned the shortcut yesterday, and we learned the shortcut when we use a new tab of doc.new, so doc.new. And if you're in Midlothian, just make sure that you are signed in to Glow. So I'm signed in to Glow here. I've got my classroom open, and it's the exact same for you as well. So doc.new. Then this will give you a brand new Google Doc. I just zoom in as well. So the first thing to know when you create a Google Doc is that you can give it a title, and then as soon as, this is where it's going to be slow for me, isn't it? Give it a title, and then if you click at the top left where it says Untitled Document, click there, it will automatically grab what is in that first line and give it that as the title of the document. So that's a little time saver. Everything in Google Docs saves automatically. We don't have to go into File, Save, or Save as you do when you work in Word offline. This saves straight away into your Google Drive. You can check where it's hosted in your Google Drive by clicking on this little folder at the top left of your screen. And if we click on here, you can then choose which folder it goes into. So you don't need to go back into your Google Drive and change that. You can do that within the actual document itself. So if you're making something for your literacy work, or if it's maybe for your S2 classes, you could have that in the folder. So it's all organized from there. I'm not very good at keeping my Google Drive organized, as you will see tomorrow in tomorrow's Google Drive session. It's an absolute mess. Next thing we've got some insert tools. So the one thing I will say is if you want to use text boxes, use Google Slides or Google Drawings, simply because text boxes in docs are a little bit funny and a little bit pernickety to deal with. You have to insert them as a drawing, and then the resizing can be a bit difficult. So in the Google Slide sessions next week, I'll go over all of that and how to use the Google, use the text boxes if you were wanting to do a piece of work in that way. So I would say when you're using a doc, try and avoid text boxes, try and keep it as simple as possible, just mainly writing. And then you've got the option to insert an image. And the great thing about this is, as you saw yesterday, if you did yesterday's session, is we can search the web. And then let's see, we've got some questions coming in, editing a doc and then losing the original, because I assume I need to click save as. So when you have been editing a doc and you're wanting to make sure that you've not maybe gone and edited the original when you want it to be a copy, instead of going save as, I would say file, make a copy, and then you can make a copy of it and then start editing that one. So rather than going in and start editing it, I would make that copy, then edit your copy of it. That's what I've been doing quite a lot of, certainly when I'm making documents for Google Classroom, I'll make a copy of it. Then what I tend to do is put the date in place of where it would say copy of. So today's date is the 23rd. And then click OK. And then that will open the copy of the document so that you can start editing. So it's a slightly different workflow if you are used to going into Word, editing it all and saving as, so it kind of creates a new document. In this, make the copy first. I don't think they'll make text boxes easier in Google Docs. I think they quite like it being the way it is. I don't know. It's been like this for many, many years. So it's just a different kind of workflow. So insert and then image and then search the web. This means that everything that we put into the document is free of any copyright issues. So I am getting a puppy in 4 weeks. So I'm going to look up puppy. And let's just go for this one. It looks nothing like my one, but hey, in it goes. And then what you can do, I'm getting a working Cocker Spaniel, little black and brown one. So yes, so here is my picture. I can then resize it. What you'll notice is you do not have the same kind of options when you right click on it. So we don't get wrap text and all of that. What we have in Google Docs is this little toolbar that comes up along the bottom. And what you want, if you want to be able to move a picture about quite freely, you want to click the middle one, and that's that wrap text version. Then what I tend to do, because this is another thing, and I will say I've done this with primary 2s, so once they get used to it, they're all right with it all, but it can be a bit tricky initially. So what you do is you get rid of the margin, because what that tends to do is it makes your text jump about. It likes to keep this gap around all of your text in your document. And then it just means you can put it right next to the writing and it won't move. Whereas if I have that margin, the text starts to jump about. But it just stops that from happening. So yes, all of the pictures, if you go insert, let me uncheck, insert image, search the web, all of these pictures are free of any copyright issues. So these are all suitable for reuse. If I search the same in Google Image, so if I go puppy, you'll notice the pictures are different. So you'll see all of these pictures are very different to the ones that I have down the side here. Let me just click enter again. So you'll see first few pictures are not the same. And that's simply because these ones are not suitable for reuse. If I go into my tools and I make sure that this is labeled for reuse, the first 3 pictures are the same. So just a way of checking, or it's not quite, it's got that little corgi. So that's the main one. So if you are having students who want a certain picture, I'm going to show you a little trick here. So if you don't want this dog, which is fine, you can then click on any picture here. This is my little hat for you. You can click on the picture, drag up to your tab, and then you can drop it into your document. And then it puts the picture in. So if there is one that you want, rather than having to go save as, yes, Angus, it's a very good little hack that I have there. Certainly I had students who are like, but I really want this picture. This is what goes with my research. Find it, click on it, drag it to your tab, and then drop it in. And then that will work in Google Slides as well. So that's another little hack for you. Next thing is to put in some information. So you could just go back into the web search and do that. I am going to show you how to do this within the document, but that isn't until the 30th. That is next week, a week today. I'll go over that fully. So you could just copy and paste some text in and paste. If you want to paste it so it looks the exact same as the font that you've chosen, paste without formatting, and then it will keep the type of font that you've chosen for your document. Other thing to show you is to, quite often, you know, you like a certain kind of font in a Google Doc or in a Word doc, you're maybe used to it. Google Docs does come with a limited number of fonts. And certainly if you're used to using the likes of Sassoon, you might want to find a font that is similar. In Google Docs, we have more fonts, and then you can go through this and then you can just search, or you can look at ones that are more handwriting, so they look like handwriting a bit more, display fonts, and then there's also the sans serif, which are a bit more, you know, suitable for those with dyslexia as well, just in the way that the words are spaced. So you can then go and just go into that again. You can choose a font. So if I go into handwriting, choose this one, and then select OK, I can then use that font here and change it. Now that's quite horrible to read, but that's just to show you that you can add other fonts into your Google Doc. And just before you go and create your own documents, I will say that it does state for today's work, let me just go into the instructions here, to put a link to the class stream. What to do is just pop that in the comments underneath today's video link when you are doing that. So the next thing to do is just to show you how to share the document. And you'll see at the top right here, we've got this blue sign for sharing. And it will have a padlock on it if it's not shared with anybody else. So if it is private to only you, it's a padlock. And that means it's only yours to look at. That will change with the different sharing settings. So if I click on that now, and then first thing I can do is get shareable link. So let me just zoom in here. So you'll see this option to get a shareable link. Now, the first thing that will do is it'll say that anyone within your organization can view. You can change that. I wouldn't have the students change it in this way. As a teacher, it's quite useful. Certainly, if you're sharing a document that you want parents to have access to, so for those of you in Midlothian who are using Seesaw, you could pop that link into Seesaw for the parents, or for those of you in East Lothian, you could pop that into the school website, for example. So to change that so it's anyone, and that means they don't have to sign in, you go into more, and then anyone with the link can view. And this is where you can see that they can view it. You can make it edit or comment. Wouldn't recommend that. Keep it as view. Save. Then you can copy the link and then select done. And then I can copy and paste that link into that Google Classroom so that people can view that. So that's what you need to do with your link. If you're not comfortable doing that today, you'll be able to watch back this recording, and then you'll be able to try it at another point you're a bit more comfortable. And the last thing to show you in sharing is sharing it with specific people. So if I wanted to share this with Colin McCabe in Midlothian, the only account I actually know, I could then share that with him and give him comment or view access to this document. Likewise, for those of you in East Lothian, let me just name this document so it allows me to share easily. You will have, it's not going to let me share it, come on, share. Oh, it's been slow, let me refresh. If in doubt with any of the Google tools, refresh your screen. That is a little hack for you. Because things don't tend to get lost, if it's not working, just refresh the screen. It's just saving at the moment. It's been a little bit slow. Here we go. So those of you in East Lothian, you could just type in a name. So if you were to share it with David Gilmore, you could type in David's name. And that works the same for those in Mid Lothian too, because you've got access to the directory. You'll just see that their name appears. What I will say, advanced features of sharing. Yes, I'll mention that here. Just make sure you've got the right person. So what you'll notice here is David's got a couple of accounts. These are both him, but you may have people with the same name. So just make sure you're sharing it with the right person. In East Lothian, we're looking at introducing a directory for that. What are the advantages of using a link rather than the document itself? The link's useful if you just want to share it out there and people access it. But if you want a specific person to get it without the risk of the link being shared with others, share it with the specific individual. Advanced features, so I'll just go back into this here. What I'll do is I'll share this one with Stuart. If I can, Stuart Brown, and then I will send. So that means this is now shared with Stuart. I'll show you how to share it with the class just shortly. And then what you can do is go into advanced. And then this is where, and I quite like this feature. So if you were sharing this with a colleague, but you wanted them to give a response quite quickly, you can set a limit for how long they've got access to the document. So if you don't want them to have the document forever, you can set an expiry for it to be within a week, within a month. Or even if you were sharing it with parents and you didn't want them to continue to access it, you could do, or I don't think you can do that with link sharing, so ignore that a little bit. But certainly with individuals, you can change that. The other thing you can do, I'll just cancel the expiry. I can make this person the owner of the file. So if you were wanting to transfer ownership of things, so if it comes to transition and you're changing classes and you've got some projects that the class have done that have been shared with you and you own the file, you can make the next teacher the owner of it by simply going into, I'll show that again. So I went into share, I shared it with Stuart, I go into advanced, and then I click on the pencil and I make him the owner. So you'll see now the pencil is next to me. I can remove myself from this file, so I can delete me. I don't have access to it anymore. It's not relevant for me. They're not my class now. I can save those changes and confirm that I do not want to have access to this file anymore, and done. And now if I refresh the screen, I don't have permission. So I cannot go and edit that. That file has been passed on to the next person. So that's really useful for transitions, certainly right now when all our transitions happening online. Now, what I'll do is I'll give you this time to go and start this task. Remember your doc.new, and then in a few minutes, I'll just pull you back to show you some of the accessibility tools built into Google Docs. And one thing you might want to do is do the page setup that I showed yesterday. And certainly if you know some people benefit from a different color of page, try doing a different page color and try and change your paper from portrait to landscape as well, just to give that a go. Just remember to get the shareable link and make it so that anyone in Edubuzz or anyone in Midlothian will work, given that you're in classrooms with the same people, and then post it onto the classroom stream as a comment. This is a good time to put in any questions into the chat as well, and I'll do my best to answer them. So when you're sharing a document with your class, I would be putting that as a piece of work in your Google Classroom. So that would be simply going into your classwork, creating an assignment or a material. I will show you how to do folders in tomorrow's session on Google Drive. So that will be in tomorrow. The Google Classroom for this, I will post, let me just get my slide from earlier. You will need to make sure you have joined the classroom. So to join a classroom, you go to classroom.google.com. You won't be able to edit any of my files. You will need to create your own file for this task. And then to join a class, you click on the add sign at the top and join class, and then pop in the code. So either of these codes. And if your class have had problems accessing the files, I'll just make sure that you've actually been posting them as assignments. Had some people were having issues yesterday as they were posting as materials, so they couldn't get edit or make copies. If students are having difficulty accessing Google Classroom, it may be that there's a personal account linked to the device. So if they're unable to log in, it may be that another Google account is installed on the same device. So then what will happen is it will default to this other one, and you cannot get into Google Classrooms unless you're within the Edubuzz or the mc.glo.scot domain. Why would you use a Google Doc rather than a Word document? So if you put in a Word document to Google Classroom, you cannot make a copy for each student, and you can only make a copy if you're using Google Docs. And I think it goes without saying that if you're wanting to make best use of Google Classroom, the tools that will work best with it are Google's own, because it's been designed to work best with that. If you do have any Microsoft Word documents that you want to use, it may be that they can only edit or view the file. Tomorrow I'll talk through how to convert those documents into Google format, but you do tend to lose some of the formatting options with them. Any other questions, pop them in the chat. If a pupil sends a document directly by email, can you upload this to their classwork in Google Classroom? They would need to do that. So what they would need to do, and if I open up a classroom where I am a student, what they would need to do is open up the assignment and then add the document to it themselves. So it's good practice for them, certainly as students go from primary into secondary and are working across multiple classes within Classroom. And when teachers have got multiple classes in secondary as well, you're not going to want them chasing up individual files. Make sure that they're getting into the swing of adding the file that they've got from their Google Drive, or they can upload. So they can upload from their computer if it is a Word document, if that's working better for them. They can upload and create one and add it, and then simply mark as done, and then that sends it to the teacher. Page setup is under File. So File, Page Setup, and then that's where you'll get those options. And yeah, so Gus teaches P3, and he is saying that he gets his students to add a photo of their work if they've done it in their jotter. So they'll just have when they go into Classroom, rather than uploading a document, they will upload a file. So it could be a picture. So they could upload a picture of, and that would work for any artwork as well that your students are doing, uploading an image of it into the classroom. So it means you've got, and what they will have when they go into their Google Drive, and I'll go over this a bit more tomorrow. But in your Google Drive, you have your Classroom folder. And if I go and open up the Techie Tea Party, let's see, this one. And then I go into the stuff from this week, I can see that there are bits and pieces of work already in there, and that's because they have been shared with me. And yeah, what I would say is good practice for your students, even if you've not got an actual assignment or a piece of work for them, and Gus is just highlighting this, is that they get used to marking things as done. So it just means it removes it from their calendar and it will stop reminding them if they have completed it. So if I go into this one here, classwork, and I click on a task, view assignment, let me just remove that there, and just mark as done, and then that will remove it from the tasks that they've been assigned. So just getting students used to marking as done, and all you would need to say to them is remember to click on view assignment and mark it as done. They're your little tasks to give them. You can practice making the documents in your own classroom if you want to actually assign some work to your class, or you can just make it and don't post it. Either works right now. If you are getting things shared in your shared with me folder rather than students uploading to Classroom, you need to go into your Google Drive and go into your shared with me, and then that's where you'll get your shared with me document. So if there is something that a student swears they've actually shared with you from Google Docs, it will likely be in your Drive and shared with me. But yes, I would recommend that you create assignments just so that you actually have a bit more organization, because if you were to start going through your shared with me, and you can see mine on the screen now, this is only part of it, it gets a bit much. So certainly if you've got many classes, multiple tasks happening, and they're all being shared with you, it's a bit of a pain. And yes, an assignment rather than materials. I was speaking to someone about this yesterday. So a material is a read-only thing. So that is something that you can only read. The student can't edit it, they can't interact with it, but they can read it. So when you are creating a task and you want students to, like you've got from me, everything here is an assignment. Even if like today you only were able to view, and that was just because it's easier to keep it all in one place. You might want to have things like an overview of the term or your kind of plan of the term, and share that as a material, but an assignment is something that they need to mark as done. If you have the code and you cannot find the classroom, you'll need to join the classroom. So by going into the classroom page, so to get to Google Classroom, you go to google.com, go to the 9 tiles and select Classroom, and then select Add Sign, Join Class, and this is where you put in the code. So you can share with people who have an account outside of your domain. So I share with my own account quite a lot, or I share with my mc.glow.scot account quite a lot from Edubuzz, and it will just flag that you're sharing with somebody outside of your domain. So if I was to share this document here, and I can type in my Mackay at mc.glow.scot, send, and then I just have to say yes, and then that will send it to my other account. The text, I just Google searched the text and copied and pasted. So I went into Google, searched for my topic, and copied and pasted it. No, it won't search for people outside of your domain, and that's simply because what it's doing is there's a directory. So for mc.glow.scot and for Edubuzz, there is a directory. So that is where all of the education accounts are stored. Everyone's there and you can search that. But when it comes to a personal account, that is not part of the directory. So it's not searching every single Google account that exists. That would be a massive database. And I don't think we want to have our data in one of those being accessed around the world. So the text for the pick movement. So what I did there was I inserted an image, puppy, drag in as well, so you can drag. Then if I've got some text, oh, my picture's gone standard. Insert image. Do that. And then what you need to do is click on the picture. So there's a blue border. Click on this middle option to wrap the text and then choose a 0 mil margin. Now, the last thing I will do, and I'll demo this very quickly, what you will notice in the classroom is, and I only added this morning, is there's a voice typing tips and tricks sheet, slide that I've made previously for GEG Scotland. And this is all of the commands that you can give during voice typing in Google Docs. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen because my PC doesn't have a microphone, and then I'm going to share my laptop. So just 2 seconds whilst I get that switched over. And I'm just going to present my screen here, share, and then I'll get that going. So I'm now, hopefully, here it is, sharing my other screen. I did practice this because I wanted it to work quite smoothly. So what you will find, you'll see I've got this microphone at the left-hand side of my screen. I'll click off of that for now. But under Tools in Google Docs, we have got the option to voice type. Now, this is the most used accessibility tool, I would say, in Google Docs. There are other ones. Now, these are there on Google Chrome. So if you're not on Chrome, you may not see the option for voice typing. There are other accessibility settings for those with visual impairments. So there's screen reader supports that will read the menu on the Google Doc. And there's also screen magnifier as well. But voice typing, if I show you now, hopefully my internet's not under too much demand at the moment, and I am aware of time, so this isn't why this isn't a hands-on part today. You can try this out later. So the voice typing option here, if I click on this, it will launch the voice typing option here. Now, what's useful to note is if you click on this menu where it says English UK, if you have students who have English as an additional language, there are hundreds of languages here. So they will typically find their own dialect. So it's got different dialects of Arabic as well within there. So it will help them to be able to access the learning. There is also the option to translate the document within here. So if you are wanting to create a document for your learners, or if you've got learners who maybe their parents want to access the document for instructions, you can translate the whole document. It will make a copy of it. So if I show you that with this Help This Cat document here. So there's Tools, Translate Document. And then I am going to choose, I will choose Arabic and translate. So you'll see the new document title is Translated Copy. It doesn't tell you the language, so you may want to put the language in if you're doing this for multiple languages, and then select Translate. It will then create the document as a brand new copy within your Google Drive. And you will see it has now translated it. Now, I cannot read this, so I'm not too sure in accuracy, but I have demoed this live and had people who do speak this as their first language read it and been quite impressed with the accuracy. The most accurate thing, though, is the voice typing. It is brilliant. So I am going to just hopefully demo this. Hope it will work. I am typing using my voice, full stop, new paragraph, text color red. Oh, it lagged. Didn't do it. Did it earlier. Hang on. I am still typing using my voice, exclamation mark. You can also do some punctuation. You can keep talking and it will pick up everything that you're saying. And hopefully it's not going to do too many typos. So that will do. It didn't do the text color red. I think that's just due to the demand on my internet at the moment, but it's quite impressive. I quite like using it. You do have to speak quite quickly if you want a full stop to go in. You can't pause, full stop, then new line. You need to do it quite quickly. So that's the last little thing for today. if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat. I'll stay about for a little bit longer. If you want to save a Google Doc to your classroom, I will stop sharing this screen, share my other one, and I'll go over that on my PC because it's a bit more comfortable to share from this. Let's make sure I'm sharing the right screen. So yes, you do have the voice typing cheat sheet available here. So have a look through it. It's on both of the classrooms. Sharing a doc in Google Classroom, you would create, if it's a piece of work you want a student to complete, create an assignment, and then add the Google Doc from your Google Drive. It's probably something you've used recently, so then add that. This is where you can change the level of access. So if you want the students to view the file, edit it like yesterday, so that editing the file is the collaborative part. But the main one, if it's a task for that student, is making a copy for each student, then it will pop their name next to the document. You can make sure you give it specific instructions, a good title, and then you can assign. Or, as I always like to recommend, schedule. So that means you can go back and edit it all before it posts. So yeah, thank you to those of you. You're free to go, of course. I will stop recording just shortly. Let me just make sure I have got all of this. And tomorrow we're going over Google Drive. So Google Drive, all of the sharing parts, shared drives, organizing our Google Drives, and hopefully I'll get to tidy mine up a little bit as well. I'll just stop recording this now.